Hello, welcome or welcome back to Hazel Jane Tarot, and this little video is just an overview of the new Oracle decks that have come into my collection in the first half of 2021. Now, this deck, the Mother's Wisdom deck, this arrived in January 2021 and it was purchased sort of in December. So this is something that I bought through a buy-sell trade group on Facebook. This deck is out of print, unfortunately, because it is a really unique, lovely deck that is very focused on experience of mothering. So it's the Mother's Wisdom Tarot or Oracle. And I really love like this one. Like the baby is in a little front carry. And it's a really very beautiful deck. It deals with sort of sacred mothers, historical mothers, also not nature mothers and animal mothers, I think. And the messages in the guidebook are really great. So when you pull a card from this deck, you get like a 2-page write up about that particular card that is very much focused on how, you know, your relationship with your child and your relationship with yourself as a mother. And so it's very much written for, as it says, you know, the Mother's Wisdom deck. It's written for mothers. It's not, I don't think it's a deck you would particularly find helpful if you didn't have kids. And maybe it's especially helpful for people with young children. I have found it very lovely, very healing deck to work with. And it's a deck that I would pull sort of a card for the week ahead or a card for the month ahead out of and spend some time reflecting on the information in the book. So this has been one of the loveliest decks, Oracle decks, that's come into my collection this year. But as I say, I purchased that back in December. Another lovely Oracle that I got in January, and this was a Christmas gift from one of my sisters, is the Sacred Ireland Celtic Moon Oracle. And this is an independently produced deck by Moonmana. So that's Karen Ward and Bernie Sexton, and you can follow them on like social media. They do lots of really great content about the sacred feminine and about Irish spirituality and so on. So this deck is one that I've used quite a bit as well, just as a one card pull or as a supplement to tarot readings. So it contains a mixture of goddesses, sacred sites, moon phases, festivals of the year, and it's all linked back into Ireland and Irish Celtic mythology and so on. So that feeds really into one of my big focuses this year, which has been reading about Irish mythology, learning the Irish language, and really getting more connected into that part of my heritage. Like I'm an Irish person living in Northern Ireland, and you know, it's something they sort of take for granted to a certain point, maybe. And this year I've sort of been more actively pursuing and trying to learn about and find out more about that side of things. So this deck has been a really nice gateway into that. And yeah, it's one that I have been working with a fair bit and continuing to work with. So that has been a lovely gift. And one of the really nice things as well is I know a few of you, maybe if you're watching, have gone on and got this deck, haven't seen it on my channel. And it just makes me really smile that my sister making that choice to buy a deck I'd never even heard of for me, you know, has led me to learn a bit more about some of these goddesses and practices from Irish history, but it has also helped some of you to find those things too. So that just really makes me smile. So this is been a deck I've really enjoyed this year. Another one that I bought for myself this year is the Sacred Creators Oracle by Chris-Anne. I've had my eye on this for a really long time, you know, when it was just available as an independent deck. And when it came out as a mass market deck from Hay House, I was really excited to get it. I haven't used it in the last month or two, but when I first got it, I used it a lot. Listen to that. Oh, it has the loveliest matte cardstock. And as you can see, it's really quite a different type of deck. It's affirmation based, it's creativity based, and it you know, I find it worked really well in combination with other decks and readings. And you know, the little book by Chris Ann is really good, and I found it worked better if I used the little deck or the little book with it and read the meaning in the book as well, as instead of just having the keywords, you know, because there's not much visually on the cards. You know, they're colourful and it's a sort of sacred geometry and so on. But the book was really helpful to use with this as well. So I did use this quite a lot when I got it first, sort of earlier in the year. And just flicking through it again now, I must get it out and use it again, because I wouldn't say it's been neglected, because I did use it a lot when I got it first. But yeah, I think it's one I want to get out and use again soon. Another new Oracle deck. This was a gift. This is from Caroline Miss, the Archetype Cards. This is a Hay House deck, and it's not one that I had on a wish list or anything, but a friend of mine, she had this deck herself and had been using it herself for a few years, and had decided it was time to get rid of it, to pass it on to somebody else, and she passed it on to me, which is fantastic because she knows I collect decks, and I was delighted to get it. But I quite literally have done one card pull from this deck. I have not worked with it at all yet, and I haven't read the book yet to sort of figure out what is going to be the best way to use this deck. But it's really unique and interesting deck, and one that I will get into at some stage. So that is another new deck in my Oracle collection. And then another one I bought for myself, and this was a real treat to myself at the end of sort of May, June, is that's showing up looking blue. That's really bright teal, actually. It's not blue at all. Anyway, this is the Song of My Heart Oracle deck by Hand Me That Pencil on Instagram. And this is a lovely independently produced oracle. It's affirmation based, and it's very female centered. It centers women, and it centers the landscape of New Zealand. I've never been to New Zealand, so that's not something I personally connect with, but I love Hand Me That Pencil's work. And this deck had really struck me when I had seen it on Instagram, other people using it, and so I treated myself to it. This is actually, there's a part A and a part B of this deck, and I got both sets. So this is the whole, the complete Song of My Heart Oracle. And yeah, it's lovely. And I've worked with it quite a lot. I've done daily pulls with it. I've used it for Instagram readings, and the affirmations are really nice. There is a guidebook, but it's only as a PDF. And as a result, I haven't really looked at, like, I did download it onto my phone, but I haven't really looked at it very much. And I really must, because I'm sure the extra depth that the creator has gone into on the cards in the little guidebook will be worth reading. But yeah, I like physical guidebooks. I understand why she hasn't created a physical guidebook, and probably for me as an international customer, it's much cheaper to get the deck without it, and to, you know, environmentally it's better too. But it just means that I haven't really looked at the guidebook yet. But this is a great deck, and I've used it loads, so I'm very happy that I got that. And then the last two that have come into my collection is the Painted Runes by Sophie McKay Knight. And I did recently do an unboxing on this. This is such a gorgeous little deck. So the images are all based on different runes. And I haven't really used it very much yet. I have done a few card pulls with it, but you've maybe seen the unboxing where I talked about it in more detail. But this is, oh, it's gorgeous. So this is one that's definitely in the oracles top of my list to use more, and to get to know properly, and to read with it alongside the Painted Tarot as well, and give that a try. So that's the little guidebook for the Painted Runes. And then the most recent deck that I have brought into my collection, and again, this is maybe cheating slightly, because it was all the decks that have come into my collection in the first half of the year. And the Painted Runes and this deck are both July. So it's the first 7 months of the year, not just the first half of the year. So this Transcendent Journeys Oracle, I picked this up in a shop. When I'm in a little holistic shop, I do like to buy something to support the shop. As I say, that's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. The art in this is lovely, and I've used it a bit. I mean, I've only had it for like a week or two, and I've used it a bit. It's a really interesting jumble of things. Like, so we've got Palladian, sort of aliens, we've got Northern Europe mythologies, we've got Irish mythology, there's Brigid, we've got Native American, we've got kind of Arthurian legends. I mean, it's a real jumble of stuff in this deck, but the paintings are just really gorgeous. And when I've done readings with it, like, look at that, it's Mary Magdalene. When I've done readings with it, they've actually been really very striking. So while the sort of content of the deck doesn't immediately speak to me in terms of like all the different kind of belief systems and ideas that are in it, it's a really interesting deck to work with. The creator, Cheryl Yambach Rose, I have read this little guidebook from cover to cover because I bought the book when I was on holiday, so I just read the little guidebook. And the guidebook does explain a little bit more what she's getting at with these cards, but she describes herself as a contactee, and has had contact with aliens, and that has had, like, that is a big impact on her worldview in this deck. So it's interesting. It's not my usual cup of tea, but the art was really striking on the box, and so I picked it up and I'm giving it a try. So those are all the new Oracle decks that have come into my collection in the first half and a bit of 2021. And yeah, I mean, I'm really lucky. I've had a lovely combination of gifts and decks like the Mother's Wisdom that I'd wanted for ages, that are hard to get, that I finally tracked down. And comparing this to the new tarot decks that I've got in the first half of the year that I've also just recently made a video about, I've used most of these oracles a lot more than maybe I've used some of the new tarot decks, which is interesting. So yeah, but anyway, there's plenty more use to get out of these lovely new things, and I hope you've enjoyed watching this little sort of just highlights of new decks of the first half of 2021. And if you have any of these, if you work with any of these, if you have thoughts on any of these, I would love to hear in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Bye.